Only the Bulls. Only the Bulls. Only the one and only Chicago Bulls. Do, 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 do. Hey!
Oh gosh.
From the University of Illinois via Morgan Park Academy, Ayo Dusumu. Welcome to this weekend edition of Second City Sports Zoom style.
Zoom style.
Pardon my horrible introduction. If you like it, great. If you don't, we still love you. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, first here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WAR Media. Videos drop every Monday and Friday. Once again, videos drop every Monday and Friday right here on YouTube at War Media. You can catch the audio version of this podcast at War on Anchor. Once again, at WARR on Anchor. You can find us wherever you download your podcast. Make sure you type in that search engine box, War on Anchor, WARR on Anchor. You can go to our website, wearerigoradio.com. And you can follow us on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. And thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Whoever's calling, tell them to hang up.
Sorry about that in the background, folks. That's nobody but my sister, so she knows I do my podcast about this time. So, I hate when she calls, and we have very different opinions. You just heard just now.
On that note, and on that note, let's not somber news unless you're a Cubs fans, but let's start off this episode with the news on the Chicago Cubs. As Lakeena will represent the Chicago Cubs fans everywhere. Anthony Rizzo was traded late Thursday afternoon after their loss to the Cincinnati Reds in exchange for two prospects. Of course, reliever Ryan Tepera was traded to the White Sox. We'll break down that deal from the White Sox perspective later. As of this podcast, as she'll let you guys know, especially in our listening audience, we are recording this podcast on Friday, July 30th. Mm-hmm. And if there's any more moves to be made, we'll review those on our next episode coming up next week. But as of right now, those are the only two moves that are being made for the Chicago Cubs. Of course, will Chris Bryant be dealt by the time we get back next week, Lakeena? Will Javi Baez be gone? The trade talks between those two players are heating up as we record this. As we said, Lakeena, as I told you during before the All-Star break, the Cubs were between 8 and 10 games out. This was over. Jed Hoyer, the GM of the Cubs, had made up his mind, and he's going to go ahead with the proceedings. Of course, as of this recording, Craig Kimbrell is still out there. So, Lakeena, the truck has been backed up, and it could be worse by the time we get back here next week.
Yeah, I think if you're a Cubs fan, you're not feeling very good right now. I mean, we warned everyone and said, look, if they were, and Sid just said it, if they were 8 to 10 games out the NL Central, unfortunately they lost to Cincinnati, so that kind of, got the brakes truck backing up. Yeah, it was just a bummer too because Cubs fans didn't get a chance to see Rizzo at bat for one last time. He and KB, Chris Bryant were both, resting. So we're taking out of the lineup. So I guess that was sort of to protect their assets, which is understandable. But again, they could have maybe did a curtain call or something. If you saw that video that went viral with Chris Bryant sort of soaking in the Wrigley Field because he figured that was going to be probably going to be there for the last time as a Cub anyway. So that was, a really, sort of surreal moment. Also, another surreal moment when the news of the trade came down. Rizzo and his family, took a tour of Wrigley. He took some pictures by left field, I think, and that kind of went viral as well. Just sort of a surreal moment. I mean, 31 years old. He's been through a lot, and when he came to the Cubs organization before he even, prior to, if you know his backstory, survived cancer as a young child, actually not even, beat it, but also persevered to become one of the top baseball players in the league, and that, in Cubs history. And the Cubs, their social media team, they're really good, probably one of the best in the majors. We saw this, puts this a little over 3 minutes, I should say, video of him, going from his first game also to the last game. It's already been viewed as of right now about 1.5 million times on their social media feed. So that's just incredible. So, and this is just, I think Cubs fans are sort of bracing themselves that, yeah, this is going to get worse, folks, unfortunately. KB might be gone, Baez might be gone, and look, it's not going to be good for the next few, for these next, year or two. So I think, Cubs fans are kind of like, getting ready to, to do that. And look, they got some good prospects back. Alcantara, Alexander Vizcaíno, and outfielder Kevin Alcantara. They're both actually pretty solid prospects from the Yankees. So, they actually got the Cubs got a nice little haul. And look, I'm sure Jed Hoyer didn't want to do it, didn't want to make the trade, but unfortunately his hands were tied. So, and we'll see what else happens. Kimbrel, is being interested by both the Dodgers and the Rays, and KB is being interested, too, by the Dodgers and the by the Red Sox and also the Rays. Actually they may not be now that Schwarber is actually going to be there. So Nationals, they're doing a fire sale. We'll get to them in a minute, but it's just, it's definitely a surreal moment. And I think, look, who knows? Maybe Rizzo might be back, and signed to maybe a 2-year deal or something, maybe at a reduced price. Who knows what will happen in there? But he's definitely going to be one of those Cubs faces that will be remembered forever, even if he doesn't come back.
Yeah, much respect to Anthony Rizzo. He's was going to go down as one of the all-time Cub fans' favorite players, and rightfully so. He helped that franchise break a 108-year curse in winning the World Series. And he's also helped out with the children's charities as a cancer survivor himself off the field. So he delved into the community right away. And so fans appreciate him for it. So he should be remembered for that as well. Now, as far as on the field, he gave it his all. He was the face of that franchise, especially along with the other superstars that were on that 2016 team with a young Javi Baez, Kyle Schwarber. Of course, veteran John Lester was there to bring the fold and help bring the World Series, in which their whole group did. So Anthony Rizzo is a stand-up guy. I know he did a weekly radio show in Chicago on ESPN 1000. He was doing it this season with David Kaplan and our guy Jonathan Hood on their new morning show, and he did a good job. So he's a New York Yankee now. He's going to do great things, I'm sure, with that organization. If you want to see Anthony Rizzo for some of you Cub fans, the Yankees will be here 2 weeks at Sox Park. Just saying. So Anthony Rizzo, he'll be missed by Cub fans. He did his job to the best of his ability, both on and off the field. He will be missing. He will be remembered for what he did for the 2016 team forever, but also he should be remembered what he did off the field. I'm sure he's going to continue to do that as well.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be doing with some cancer charities, like you said, with children's cancer charities. And look, who knows how long, look, the Cubs got a pretty nice haul for a rental, for the Yankees, from the Yankees for like a rental guy. So I'm sort of surprised that the Yankees are able to kind of bet the farm, if you will. I guess they're trying to go for the one of the AL wildcard spots, and we'll get to them in a minute. But I kind of feel like, I think if you're Cubs fans, it's sort of the inevitable. I don't think a lot of Cubs fans are emotionally ready for the inevitable. One shoe, the one shoe was dropped with Rizzo being traded. We'll see if Baez and Bryant and Kim, the core, I should say. So we'll see what happens there. But it's not the first sort of big trade to happen. The Blue Jays got some much needed pitching help. They got Jose Berrios from the Twins. Had to give up a couple of their prospects, but the pitching was something that they really, really needed. And also this weekend, they're back in Toronto now, finally. Bo Bichette, if you guys subscribe to the Players Tribune, he wrote a really nice article about how hard the last couple of years have been for the team, having to travel, back and forth, having various, homes. Now they're back, they're back in Toronto, and you got to think that could definitely help. And also getting Berrios, one of the top pitchers for the Twins, I think this can only help them in that chase to get one of those AL wildcard spots.
We talked about it all year, Lakeena, about Toronto. I don't like their starting pitching staff. Their bullpen is at best. They have the offense, and that's why they're still hanging around the American League wild card race. As you remember, before the season started, I picked them in Oakland. I believe it was them in Oakland or them in Houston to play in the AL wild card game. And I said for Toronto, they're gonna have someone's got to step up in that starting rotation. Well, congrats to them, Toronto's management team. They picked up Jose Berrios from Minnesota. He's really going to help them, barring injury, of course, but he's really going to help them because, as we said before, Lakina, these last few weeks, the AL wildcard race is getting crowded and it's definitely going to get interesting from now until the end of the season. It's just getting started. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, Sid, I think real, especially once this is actually one of the few times I'm glad we're. I wish we were live because we can talk about all this stuff because there's a lot of these trades are
Yeah.
coming in, fast and furious. There's this mega trade between the Nationals and the Dodgers that will send Trey Turner and also Matt Scherzer from from DC to the Dodgers. And this is interesting because earlier on Thursday morning there were rumors that they were going to go to the Padres. Dodgers said, said no, not on our watch. So, once it's official now, I think they're still working on some of the prospects that Dodgers would send to them. But, look, like I said, these are coming out fast and furious. Of course, this is going to be a very interesting trade deadline. We'll see if any more names, can get traded. And I think, wait a minute, hold on. I think we just got another kind of breaking news. Eddie Rosario, Cleveland sending him to the Braves for Pablo Sandoval. So they, the Braves get some much needed help, much needed depth in the outfield, of course, with Acuna now, of course, done for the year. They're going to need sort of like add that depth they're trying to go for, not only the National League East, but also the wild card there too is getting kind of crowded there. So a lot of teams are kind of making moves, and also the Cubs and the White Sox. We'll talk more about the White Sox to see if they make any more moves with our good buddy Jordan Lazowski of SoxOn35th.com, a little later on, but not the Cubs Sox trade was kind of expected, though, as some people were saying that maybe Javier Baez, I should say, perhaps maybe he might go to the White Sox. But look, they got, the Sox get what they needed is a good middle relief guy, and Ryan Tepera is definitely just that. He's definitely one of the better middle relievers for the Cubs. He was one of the reasons why the Cubs had that great stretch, like that 6-7 week stretch where they didn't give up any runs, or I think they only gave maybe like 8 hits during that span. So they got a really nice, a really solid middle relief guy in Tepera.
Yeah, on the Ryan Tepera move, like you said, we'll get into more in depth later with our guest. But me personally, I've been harping for Andrew Chafin for the last few weeks on this show to go to the White Sox. I wonder if GM Rick Hahn even called the Cubs. Well, we know he called the Cubs, but did he ask about Andrew Chafin? If he did the Cubs want the quote-unquote house for Andrew Chafin? We don't know. We'll probably never know. I thought he would have been a better fit for the White Sox bullpen because he's a left-hander. He can get guys out, and it's an upgrade from Aaron Bummer. But Ryan Tepera is not a bad move. I'm satisfied with it. Now you can have him, Kopech, and Liam Hendricks. Whether you have Liam Hendricks for a 5-out save or your traditional 3-out save come postseason, that's going to be perfect for the White Sox. And if somebody else decides to step up in that bullpen, that'll be great too. So Michael Kopech's arm won't be blown out. You know what I'm saying? So if you just had Kopech and Hendricks and maybe one of those other starters that couldn't make it in the starting rotation come postseason time, they get thrown in the bullpen, it would have been disastrous. But Ryan Tepera helps this White Sox bullpen. It upgrades them a lot.
Yeah, and also depth too. I think that's really what, like you said, so you don't have to, depend on Kopech all the time. And from that last series against, Kansas City, you really need it. So I'm thinking that's probably, Tepera is probably coming at the right time for the White Sox. What other trades so far, or what potential trades, I should say, is something that you're looking for? Is it sort of like one of those trades you're sort of like, okay, and then you're like, huh? Were there any trades or potential trades that got you feeling like that?
The Max Scherzer trade you just mentioned a couple of moments ago. The San Diego Padres were in line to get him. Shout out to Dodgers GM Andrew Freeman, who worked in Tampa Bay. He was aggressive enough. The Dodgers don't give up too many top prospects. That's the reason why they've been so successful for so long, especially winning 8 or 9 consecutive National League West Division titles. This is the reason why. And now they're giving up their 4 top prospects for Matt Scherzer and Trey Turner. Congratulations to them. Tells me a couple of things. One, the San Francisco Giants, as we said before, Lakeena, they're not going anywhere. Number 2, San Diego still breathing down their neck. They kept them away for the Padres. Number 3, the Trevor Bauer situation. They're preparing if he's not going to pitch the rest of this season. As we said a couple of weeks ago, what would Andrew Freeman do, assuming that Trevor Bauer doesn't pitch this year? They still have Clayton Kershaw, even though he's on the other side of his career. Walker Buehler is still young enough. He's the ace of that staff. David Price, who missed last year due to COVID concerns, he's in their bullpen, but they didn't want to put him out there as a starter again. I think Mr. Price didn't want to be a starter again from what I've heard. So we said at the time, the last couple of weeks, what was Andrew Freeman going to do? Well, he pulled out the biggest move for the Dodgers. Will this help them win the division? It's going to be tough, especially after they lost earlier this week by the Bay. I think San Francisco and the Dodgers play one more time during Labor Day weekend. Mm-hmm. But will this guarantee the Dodgers another divisional championship? It could. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but they're in much better position now than they were a few days ago.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, Sid. I mean, the fact that the Dodgers are basically, giving up their farm, if you will, to try to get to get Scherzer and Turner. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do because, yeah, like you said, I mean, we'll see if the Giants pull off any moves. They kept the Padres from getting Scherzer, and I think that was that kind of. If you're a Padres fan, you're thinking, you're sort of like you're sort of like like shaking your fists, like why, but but that's that's over also, but. Also too, I think for me, but here's the thing though. For me, like it was a Joey Gallo trade from Texas, from the Rangers. I mean, like it's sort of interesting that he's going to the Yankees. I think they need another bats. I think pitch is really more for what they would need, but again, that's another, that's sort of another thing. But we'll see if they get any pitching. But I think Gallo is sort of one of those guys where I think they really, look, there have been other teams, that have have been wanting for him, but he is an outfielder. He could he play first base and also third base, so he is very versatile in that respects. But I'm kind of wondering, like, are they going to perhaps maybe make a trade to get a pitcher, particularly a middle reliever? We'll see what they do. I mean, they traded for Rizzo, so but come on, Yankees, you need pitching, so that's sort of like one of those trades. You're sort of like, okay, that's a little bit. That's a little odd that they would do that. I mean, not that, look, you never have too many bats, but pitching is really what they need. But what do I know?
Maybe the Yankees will just think they can outslug everybody. They're looking at what Boston's doing. They're looking at what Tampa Bay's doing. Even though Tampa Bay's not a traditional slugging team, I know they picked up Nelson Cruz a couple of weeks ago from Minnesota. They're looking at them and say, maybe we can copy that same model, and hopefully somebody from that starting staff can get hot outside of Garrett Cole. I know Domingo Germán had a great start last Sunday at Boston before the bullpen gave it away and the whole thing collapsed. So maybe the Yankees are hoping on a wing and a prayer, but we'll see what happens when we reconvene next week if they picked up a starting pitcher. But wrapping up on the Dodgers for just a minute, they're still without Mookie Betts. I'm sure he'll return in a couple of weeks. And also, too, for San Diego, you like their management. They're going for it. I know they were stacking up prospects for the last couple of years as well. I know they made the playoffs last year and lost to the Dodgers, but you like the aggressiveness of their front office. They're saying, the time is now, we have the pieces, let's go for it. You got to give them respect for that.
If it helps me unmute myself, but yeah, but I mean, look, you gotta give the Padres, some props. They are going for it, and one of the things that they did load, for the last, for 2 or 3 years, they loaded on their prospects and such. So that, sort of helped them. Perhaps maybe we'll see if they can make any more moves. They lost out on Scherzer, so we'll see if they make any moves. We'll see if other names are going to be on the move. Could Chris Bryant? He's sort of like one of the big prize. Also, Craig Kimbrell too. I mean. Look, a lot of teams need a reliever, so I know unless I saw the Rays haven't making a play for him, but also to the Dodgers, they need a reliever too because Kenley Jansen just has seemed to have lost it. So we'll see. There's still a lot of big names out there, and we'll see if they're traded.
Yeah, do you think that the Dodgers are in the runners up? Not saying runners, but they're the front runners to get Mr. Kimbrel because, like you said, Kenley Jansen's been up and down this year.
I think if they got any prospects over the trade, I'm sure Jed Hoyer is not just going to give them to them. So the Rays have a little bit more prospects, but again, they may not want to part with one of their top guys. So if you're the Dodgers, are you going to maybe eat up some of his salary and maybe perhaps give one of your top prospects to him, the ones that you got left from the Scherzer deal? So we'll see what happens. I'm sure Kimbrel's sort of like you're thinking, okay, where I'm going to be this weekend. So this is a time of year where you're thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? So it'll be very interesting, no doubt about it.
You're listening to the weekend edition of Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Cindy Brown as we discuss MLB trade deadline 2021 as we record this program as of Friday, July 30th. To remind our listeners on the podcast, our podcast network, War Media, War on Anchor. Lakeena, let's go to Boston. Kyle Schwarber, the former Chicago Cub, he has 25 home runs on the season. He used to play for the Washington Nationals. Now he is traded to the Boston Red Sox. As I said before, Lakeena, I don't like Boston's pitching staff. I know they have Nathan Eovaldi and they have Rodriguez. I know Chris Sale is supposed to be back sometime in August, but the reason for their success has been the offense. I told you I like Rafael Devers. He's the best offensive third baseman in the American League, perhaps in all of baseball. Of course, you have my man Alex Verdugo at center field. Of course, you have I like Verdugo's hair. It's not as wild as Justin Turner's of the Dodgers, but it's coming pretty damn close. Also, you have J.D. Martinez playing some first base and DH, but their lineup just got stronger with Kyle Schwarber. I know some folks in White Sox Nation are afraid of the Astros if they meet up in the playoffs. And I said Oakland for yours truly. But I think, at least on paper, Boston can give the White Sox a scare. Now, I know they already played 4 games in Boston early in the season and the two teams split. I know the Red Sox come here in September 10th through the 12th for a 3-game series on the South Side. But on paper, that's a scary lineup. And it could give White Sox pitching trouble if they're not careful.
Well, I think
it could.
Well, I think the Red Sox are pretty much doing what the Yankees are trying to do, trying to outslug everybody because their pitching is not very good. So if you're a Red Sox fan, you're hoping that, your hitters don't get cold, especially at the end of the season going into the playoffs, because you're going to wish you had the pitching. So I think this is what sort of the thought process is for the Red Sox. I mean, look, they're hanging on, even though the Rays are still right behind them at 1.5 back. So I think having Schwarber, I think they get that power hitter that they've missed. But again, another AL East team that needs pitching more than they do hitting. And this is sort of one of those things where, yes, you can try to outslug people, but again, when you get to the playoffs, pitching is what's going to win you games. So, Schwarber, gives them a nice, more depth in that lineup for the Red Sox. But again, his OPS is really good, but, I don't know. I don't know if, look, I love Schwarber. I'm glad he's still, hitting and, hitting the doors off baseballs. But again, pitching's going to be the thing. And we'll see if they make any moves to try to get a pitcher.
I think the Red Sox do need another start, but I think that Chris Sale, whenever he returns, I think there'll be their version of a trade deadline acquisition. Now, on the flip side for their bullpen, which has pretty much been okay, I'm sure that their front office has called Jed Hoyer in regards to Craig Kimbrel. I really want to know what's the asking price from Boston in terms of what they should do to acquire Kimbrel.
Well, look, like I said,
for him to return back to Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, Hoyer's not just going to give you guys anyone Kimbrel. Like, you're going to have to, he's got the next big prize, in Kimbrel. So he's not just going to give you to. Look, let's remember who kind of was his mentor, Theo Epstein. So he's not just going to give you, Kimbrel, like you're going to have to make it worth his while. So you're going to have to maybe give up one of your prospects. I just saw someplace somewhere where the White Sox have, tried to get Kimbrel. Look, I don't know if they may not have. You're gonna probably have to give it Andrew Vaughn or somebody like that to probably have to maybe try, and get him. We'll ask Jordan about that in a little bit, but I think like you said, I think Jed's very crafty, so I'm sure he's gonna say, hey, look, here's Craig Kimbrel. I know there are a lot of you guys, at least half dozen of you guys who are in playoff contention are gonna want him. You're gonna have to make it worth his, worth his while to to part with him. He's just not gonna give him to you. So we'll see what he does. And look, just to cap off this trade deadline thing, but it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, he's gonna make a difference for somebody. Now, does he go back to the Red Sox? Does he go to the White Sox? Does he go to the Dodgers out west, or maybe down south to the Rays? We don't know. We'll find out. We'll talk about it on Monday.
Before we move on, Lakeena, let's get the Milwaukee Brewers credit as well. This will affect the White Sox. We'll ask Jordan about this as well when he hops on with us in our next segment. Eduardo Escobar was traded from Arizona to Milwaukee. I think it helps Milwaukee a lot, especially in depth among the infield, and he can hit as well. And the Brewers, I hate to say, they got that NL Central Division right up. They're the poor version of the White Sox in the NL. They're not a scary team, but they're good enough to win that division going away. I want to ask Jordan about this. We know that the reports are out there, especially with Bob Nightingale, great writer from baseball writer from USA Today, that the White Sox were more than just sniffing around Escobar during the July 4th weekend, and everybody in Sox Nation was asking Rick Hahn to make that deal happen right away. As we told you guys, the asking price was too high. I'm just curious, when I woke up this morning, when Rick Hahn, I'm sure he talked with Diamondbacks management over the last couple of days, was the asking price still at what it was a month ago? Was it more? I'm struggling for those listening exclusively on our podcast. Now that's the questions I want answered. Will we get answers to all those? Probably not, but I'm going off the assumption that the asking price was a little bit more higher than what it was about a month ago for Escobar.
I'm sure it was.
If that was the case, if you Rick Hahn, as we said before, you make the best deal possible, but you don't have to mortgage the future too much for a rental. And it seems like that's what he did with these two acquisitions in Tepera and Cesar Hernandez from Cleveland.
Yeah, we'll ask Jordan about this later, but to kind of put a capper on this. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, look, I'm sure the Kimbrel, I'm sure Jed Hoyer's going to be asking for a lot. And I don't know if maybe Rick Hahn might not want to, make that move. So, we'll see what happens. And like I said, we'll talk about it with Jordan in a little bit. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think it's gonna be interesting to see who wins the Craig Kimbrel sweepstakes.
Yep, it should be fun.
All right, so we'll go through the matchups for this weekend real quick. You got the Cubs going up against the Nationals, who seem to be, they're going in rebuild mode as well. You got Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Yeah, Kansas City and Toronto. Back in Toronto. That should, I'm sure, I can imagine the emotion of the fans there. I know they've been waiting for, I think they're still kind of limiting how many fans could actually be at the park. So we'll see. I can only imagine what the emotions are going to be for the players and also for the fans there as well. Baltimore and Detroit, Boston and Tampa Bay. That should be a very interesting one there. In the AL East, you got Cincy and the Mets, who are suddenly, they're kind of like, going up and down there. We'll see what that happens. The Yankees and the Marlins, the Milwaukee and the Braves. I lost my place there for a second. You got Seattle and Texas. You got the White Sox against Cleveland. Let's see what else here. You got Minnesota and St. Louis. You got Oakland and the Los Angeles Angels of Orange County. You got the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks. They shouldn't have any troubles there. The Dodgers. I mean, you got Houston, San Francisco, and Colorado, and San Diego. Stay classy, San Diego. So those are your matchups for this weekend in Major League Baseball.
Yep. So those series should be fun. Yours surely will be at the games for those of you listening on our podcast tonight and tomorrow. As the White Sox battle the Indians on the South Side. Tonight is Johan Makata bobblehead. Now you'll surely get his fourth bobblehead of the season.
Oh,
All right, got Giolito, Tim Anderson, and somebody else. So I'll get Johan Makata bobblehead tonight. For those of you in the Chicago area who are going to that game, if you haven't purchased your tickets, purchase them now. As we said before, White Sox tickets are going fast. This team is getting hot. They're on their way to the division title. You know where to go get them. Go to their website for more details. Tonight's game is the first 20,000. We'll get a Johan Mercado bobblehead. So purchase your tickets for tonight's game to get your Johan Mercado bobblehead. And that's all the free advertising we'll get from me.
For the bobbleheads. All right, so let's go to the hard word in these last few minutes of the first segment. You got the NBA draft that commenced on Thursday night, of course, as expected. Cade Cunningham, the National Player of the Year from Oklahoma State, he's going to Detroit. Detroit, we'll see what happens. They got a young core there. We'll see how the Pistons look like next year. He seems ready and willing and eager to work, so we'll see what he does. Also, to Jalen Green, who, if you haven't heard the name, unless you were a really big basketball fan, he was with the G League team Ignite. So he goes to Houston. Houston kind of had a nice little draft. They had like about 100 picks. So of course they would have a good draft there. Evan Mobley, the Pac-12 Player of the Year from USC. He went to Cleveland. Scotty Barnes from Florida State. He goes to Toronto. And Jalen Suggs, from Gonzaga, of course. All-American. He goes to Orlando. So those are your top five. Now the big story, it was at 38. Of course, the Bulls did not have a first round pick, but they picked Ayo Dosunmu, the consistent All-American, also a Chicago guy, won a state championship when he was at Morgan Park. 3 years, 3-time All Big Ten, also consistent All-American. There were rumors, some of the people that I know on Facebook and Twitter were saying that if Ayo was there at 38, would, AK Eversley take him? They did just that. Now, there were some people that said they should, maybe they should have went ahead and got Jared Butler, who, of course, was the most outstanding player in the Final Four for Baylor. He ended up going to the Pelicans, and now, of course, actually now he's going to be going to Utah. And also I had to get on our friend Ricky O'Donnell, who does a great job with SB Nation. He wanted Sharif Cooper. He wanted Sharif Cooper, who was the guard from Auburn, I believe the SEC Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe all SEC, I think. Because he's a point guard. Of course, that's what the Bulls have been lacking the last few years. But he ended up going to Atlanta. It's going to be that should be a nice little backcourt with him and Trae Young. But he said that it was a very, going for AO was very guard packs. I had to tell him, look, you can disagree with the pick. That's fine. But to say that as a guard packs pick, like, it kind of insulted Ayo, who has, look, is he the guy that's going to facilitate the offense? No, but he can do so much more. I know people are comparing him to Kobe White. Oh, he's just a slightly bigger Kobe White. That's sort of insulting him too. And look, he's going to sell tickets just once you get people back in the UC. So I think this is a good pick for the Bulls. I mean, look, I think, there's a reason why Cooper ended up going 48. What was the excuse there? He was actually supposed to have been a late first rounder. So how did he end up going 48 to Atlanta, in the middle of the second round? I mean, it must have been something that they didn't like. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with him and his stock. But again, I think this is a nice pick for Chicago.
I couldn't agree more. A couple of things on Dosunmu. One, I thought he was a mid to late first round pick. The way he slid out, I was shocked. And I'm taking my personal fandom out of this. He was first round talent. He was a first round talent for a reason. But I'm with you that Arturas Karnisovas and GM Mark Eversley got a steal. Now, I know some, not all, but I'm sure some meathead Bulls fans are going to say, since we need a point guard, Dosunmu solves all of our problems. No, he doesn't. There's no disrespect to Ayo, but he doesn't solve all your problems. You still need a veteran point guard. The goal is to win a championship, but the first goal for this Bulls organization is to make the playoffs. And how you do that, you have 3 stars. You already have 2 in Zach LaVine and Nikolai Vucevic. Okay? You still need a veteran point guard. We saw last year Kobe White is not the answer. He's your Vinny Johnson coming off the bench, and that's okay. Are you still going to get Alonzo Ball? Will you go after Dennis Schroeder? Well, I think as from a basketball perspective, it's not a good move because he's an older version of Kobe White. You don't need that on this team. Do you go out to Deontay Murray, who I think is a better fit after Lonzo Ball? So this is a more reason why the Bulls need to go out and get a veteran point guard. This is a much needed move now more than ever because you drafted Ayo Dosunmu to be the future, but if you ask him to step in right now, he doesn't know the plays, he doesn't know the system. It's going to take him some time. I know some fans don't want to hear that, but that's how it happens because he's a rookie. This team is ready to make that jump to get into the playoffs. And Ayo Dosunmu is good, but he's not good enough to carry a team to the playoffs. Not yet. That's why the Bulls now more than ever need a veteran point guard, and they need one now. And Ayo Dosunmu can learn under the veteran point guard, and his game can come along as the season goes along.
And look, I think that's a lot to ask for him, and I think that this is going to be kind of one of those things where, like, look, he can hold down for a while. Kobe is recovering from his injury, from his surgery. I mean, so I think he's probably going to be asked to step up right away because of White's injury. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does and what he brings to the table. And look, they're still going to go after a point guard. Look, we don't know what AK and Eversley are doing. And I'm okay with that. So look, if they get Deontay Murray, fine. Look, I don't think they're going to get Lonzo Ball anymore because they got the money now. The Hornets got the Pelicans have the money now to match any offer that comes up. That's okay. And look, Schroeder, I think his age is Schroeder. I should say, I think his age is the one that's starting all these rumors. So I'm not worried about him coming to the Bulls. Cause I think this is mostly his agents doing. So I'm not even worried about that. But again, I think Murray would be a good fit. I've heard some people say maybe Derrick Rose. I mean, some people.
Here's the thing.
Look. Let me just finish this because.
Okay.
And look, this is our buddy Mac Peck, who does a great job on Locked On Bulls and the Bulls outcast on Hot Mic. I think he was one of the first guys to kind of bring this up, saying maybe get a D Rose. Look, you wouldn't have to ask him to do much. He could kind of be that veteran presence. He could probably help up Io a little bit. I know they played at rival schools, but hey, whatever, who cares? But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Look, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I think it'd be an interesting little reunion. And then look, the brass who was there when he was drafted aren't there anymore. So I don't know. I'm not saying that it should happen, but it could be a nice little thing. Just saying. I mean, I'm not saying that oh my God, it would be like the best thing ever. But I think. Look, especially if he's got some playoff experience now playing with New York, so he's got some of that. Of course with the Bulls too. So he'd be that veteran presence, I guess. Even though Ashley Vucevic is actually older than him, but go figure. Mm-hmm. But look, I think I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but it'd be nice to see.
Some of it, basketball-wise, makes sense. Selfishly, as a fan, I wanted to see that happen, but. At this point in Derrick Rose's career, he needs to jump on the veteran team like Utah, Denver, Dallas, or trying to sneak up on the Lakers. We'll get to them in a minute. A team like that to championship contender to go get that ring. And then if he wants to come home to finish out his career, so be it. But at the end of the day, if Derrick Rose is the Bulls' best and really only option left, okay. But I agree with you as far as the basketball side of this. That he's not going to be asked to be the savior. He's going to be a facilitator. He's still going to score. But has anybody asked Derrick if he really wants to come back here? I'm struggling for those of you listening exclusively on our podcast. Has anyone asked Derrick, does he really want to come back here? Because we all assume that he wants to come back here. It's not always that simple, folks.
Yeah, it's somewhat interesting that they kind of I don't know who brought it up first. We gotta ask somebody who kind of brought this up that would he want to come back? But again, like I said, the brass that was there when he was here, they're not there anymore. You got a totally new regime, so maybe that's why he wants to come back. I don't know.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. It's not a guarantee. It's a possibility.
Maybe that's why he might want to come back. That there's the kind of the rumors that he might want to come back is because Garpax isn't there anymore. But again. We'll see. Now, the sort of like this mega trade. Now, none of these trades, any trade that happened in the draft or up until now, none of it can be official until August 6th, which is just next week. It's sort of like a weird sort of like thing with the NBA where the salary cap goes up, and it's sort of all this kind of like weird dot the I's and T's crossed. It's sort of weird. It's a little too complicated, but so we won't explain it. But there was this mega trade that happened between the Wizards and the Lakers. The Wizards have agreed to send Russell Westbrook, a 2024 second-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, to the Lakers for Kyle Kuzma, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and that 22 pick from this past Thursday's draft, which they got to take Isaiah Jackson. I think, look, if you're Isaiah Jackson, I think you're feeling pretty good. Hey, you're going for Kentucky. You're going to be playing for the Lakers, so it's gonna be yeah. So you're gonna, but then you're actually gonna be going. You're gonna play with Bradley Beal, which I think you might be feeling pretty good if you're Jackson. But yeah, what do you think about that trade?
Here's the thing for the Lakers. Russell Westbrook, I'm sure he wanted to go back home. Now he gets his wish. And I heard many various opinions over the last 28 to 48 hours. Are there enough basketballs to go around, especially as LeBron James gets older? The last during his 3 years in Los Angeles, 2 out of those 3 years, LeBron's been hurt. Now, the only time he wasn't hurt was during the bubble in 2020 when they won the title. Anthony Davis, hopefully he's healthy at the start of next season. Russell Westbrook, he's going to have to change his game some, but he's in his early 30s. Do you think it's going to change enough to sacrifice to win a championship ring? Because if you've been the man for so long with OKC, Houston, and Washington, which they barely made the playoffs last year, he was the man who had to do everything. Now, yes, he's going to have to take a step back, but can you get rid of old habits overnight? I don't know if he can. I'll cheer for him personally, but does he fit system-wise with the Lakers? I'm not sure. Now, the key is for the Lakers, they currently have 5 players on the contract, including Taylor Horton Tucker, Chicago's very own. I believe he's a restricted free agent.
Yes.
But I want to see what kind of shooters they put around LeBron James and Anthony Davis, because we said last year, Lakeena, they needed shooters. And they didn't have him. Wesley Matthews, he was a big disappointment. Dennis Schroeder was, even though he was injured part of the year, he was a big disappointment. Kyle Kuzma, he was missing half the time. So I want to see what GM Rob Pelinka does in putting the right pieces and shooters around it on this roster.
Yeah, there was some rumors that they were going to trade for Buddy Hield, but unfortunately, a lot of the pieces that they were asking for, the Kings were, now they're with Washington. So,
he would have been a better fit than Westbrook.
Yeah, he probably would have. And we'll see. Look, if you're Hield, you're probably thinking, okay, what's going on here? Because there have been various rumors about him all Thursday night. So we'll see. I mean, he might still be on the move. The Kings had a really good pick. They had a really good draft. They got Mitchell from not Donovan Mitchell, obviously, but Davion Mitchell, no relation though, from Baylor, defensive player, 3-time defensive player of the year from the Big 12, so among others. So they had a really nice draft. We'll see if Hield's on the move. We'll see if there's any more trades. And I also want to give a shout out to Adam Silver in the NBA, Isaiah Jackson's teammate from Kentucky, Terrence Clark, who sadly lost his life in a tragic traffic accident, I believe late May or early June. He had just signed his contract with his agent. They were, looking forward to, he was probably going to be like a top 15, top 20 pick. And his former college coach, John Calipari, wrote a nice little tribute for him just before the draft on early Thursday. And, they Adam Silver, who has done a great job, in these kind of situations, said that, look, honorary, draft for, Terrence. I know his mom and the rest of the family. And look, I'm sure they cut him a little something, to kind of, help the family out. So just a really nice, gesture by Adam Silver in the NBA, and also to continue rest in peace to Terrence Clark.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up to the Commissioner Silver and the entire NBA family. Segment number 1 in the books. Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports continues with Jordan Lazowski of Sox of 35th and Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, as the kids would say, put the whole franchise on blast. Along with Lakeena McGee, I'm Sidney Brown. We'll see and hear you on the flip side. Happy days are here again. Never mind. Welcome back to the second half of the weekend edition of Second City Sports Zoom style.
Zoom style.
I will not be singing again in this podcast. So for all those that want to turn off, don't do that. I won't be singing again. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sidney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the Insta.
And you can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. Videos drop every Monday and Friday. Once again, videos drop every Monday and Friday on YouTube at War Media. You can catch the audio version of this podcast that's available at War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Just type in those search engine boxes, WARR on Anchor. You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com, and you can follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. As we kick off the second half of Second City Sports, we're going to bring in a friend of the show. He covers the White Sox for SoxOn35th.com, and he's part of the Sox on 35th podcast. He's a friend of the show. We had him on doing our White Sox preview show. You can catch on YouTube at War Media. Just scroll back and catch that episode. He was on with Chris Lanuti, Brad Bruce Squires. And who else did we have, Lakeena, on that preview show? Did I miss anybody? When we start naming people, we forget somebody.
I think we got it. I think we got everybody.
I think we got it.
We got everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you want to relive that again, I'm sure, hopefully, if and when the White Sox win the World Series this year, you can go back and you can tell what our predictions were. So let's bring on our good friend, Mr. Jordan Lazowski. Jordan, how are you today?
Oh, happy Friday. It's an absolute pleasure. Glad to be back.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we are recording this show on a Friday. Just in case the White Sox make any moves, you're listening to this podcast. It's a Saturday because, as we said before, this is when this is released on the audio version. If the White Sox make any more moves between now and when we reconvene for next week, you can yell at us, but we cannot hear you. So it's our responsibility to tell you that we are recording this on a Friday, just in case the White Sox make any more moves. We got it? Good. Jordan, let's break down the two trades. Of course, Ryan Tepera was acquired for a minor leaguer from the Chicago Cubs. But first, let's break down the Oscar Hernandez trade from the Cleveland Indians / Guardians as of next year. The White Sox gave up a couple of prospects. Message to Danny Mendick and not Larry Garcia. You're not going to be our everyday second baseman going forward, especially if we get towards the playoffs. So what did you think about the Hernandez move?
I think you nailed it right at the end there. You know, Larry Garcia and Danny Mendick, you're getting a serious upgrade. It's a position that you didn't expect to be a weakness coming in because you thought you had Nick Madrigal. And when you look at this team, when you look at what it looks like at full strength for the playoffs, that's still the weakest infield or outfield position. So going there, filling it from a division rival is an interesting way to do it. It basically signals, hey, this division is yours, take it. And we're going to get what we can out of it as the Cleveland Indians / Guardians, whatever, Cleveland baseball team, whatever you want to call it. But it's like, hey, division's yours. No one's going to catch you. We're going to try and get a couple good prospects out of this. And it's the type of move the Sox needed to make. It was a serious and clear upgrade from what they've been running out at second base recently. And when you look at it, you feel a lot better with Cesar Hernandez in your lineup come playoff time than you do with Larry Garcia or Danny Mendick. And that's the biggest part of the story.
Definitely a big upgrade on second base with Hernandez. Now, if you guys remember during that White Sox preview, I said that the middle relief was going to be an issue for the White Sox. And unfortunately, if you saw their series earlier this week against the Royals, where they lost 3 out of 4, it was a problem. So now they got Ryan Tepera from the Cubs, a very solid veteran middle reliever, was a big part of what the Cubs were able to do for those 6 weeks in May going into June. How big of a pickup was this for the White Sox, Jordan?
Yeah, I think if you look at what the relief pitching has been for the White Sox recently, it's been Michael Kopech and Liam Hendriks, and that's really been it. And that's the big problem is, you're supposed to have a pen that's at least 6 really good guys deep. And Aaron Bummer's been inconsistent. Evan Marshall's been hurt, and he was inconsistent before. Cody Hoyer hasn't looked like he looked last year. When you put it all together, bullpen arms are very volatile. And Lakeena, you hit the nail on the head when you said, it might be a problem. When you have the volatility that a bullpen does, issues like this pop up. And it's not any lack of foresight from the White Sox. Like, I would have thought Cody Hoyer would have been fine. I would have thought Aaron Bummer would have been fine. Reality is they weren't. There's a serious gap in the bridge between the starting pitching and Liam Hendriks at the back end, and Ryan Tepera helps close that up. It's a huge move. It didn't cost much to make, which is the big thing. Neither move really cost that much, but they're serious upgrades for a team that was needing them.
As we said, Jordan, before I move on to my next question, me and Lakeena have been saying this for the weeks. Rick Hahn need to make some moves. He was going to make them. We just didn't want him to mortgage the farm system. They don't have that many prospects, as you well know. As maybe people assume that they're like the Dodgers or the Yankees of the past. Or we had these pipeline of prospects. The White Sox don't have that much. So,
right.
Rick Hahn was smart here and not committed for. Hopefully these moves will work out. Now let's go to the names that were rumored to come to the White Sox. Adam Frazier, he was moved from the Pirates to the Padres. I think that was a great move for San Diego. But Eduardo Escobar, of course, the White Sox were more just sniffing around. Of course, their report came out around the 4th of July weekend from Bob Nightingale of USA Today. As we said at the time, we reminded our listeners and viewers that blockbuster trades in baseball really happens around that time because the asking price is just too high. Yeah. I'm sure that Rick Hahn called the Diamondbacks a couple of times since then. I wanted to get your opinion on this. I had a theory. Was the asking price still the same from the Diamondbacks, or were they trying to get greedy? I'm talking about Arizona. I wanted to know if Rick Hahn is going to address it in front of the media. I doubt it, but it seems this is just my gut feeling that Arizona was probably asking a little bit more than they expected. That's just my gut feeling about it.
I think what might have happened is, there were rumors that the Sox had the deal finished. Multiple people had said it, and they were kind of scared off by the fact that a couple days later, Eduardo Escobar got hurt. And after he comes back, he really starts to heat it up a little bit. And then it comes to Cindy, what you're saying. It's like, hey, well, maybe whatever we had asked for at the first place isn't enough. Maybe we can hold out a little bit and see if we can get someone else to pay a little bit more. Like that's negotiation 101. I think the worst thing, if you were a big fan of Eduardo Escobar and you're upset they didn't get him, the reason really comes down to Escobar got hurt, and that kind of worried the Sox when they were going to make that trade. You don't know how long it's going to last. You don't want to say, hey, this is the guy, and then he's out 2 more months, and now all of a sudden you don't have what you thought you had. So that I think something like that ended up happening, and just the timing was so weird that it came down to, hey, it's July 27th, July 28th. I can afford to open up the market, get a little risky if I'm the Arizona Diamondbacks, and see who's going to pay me the most. It wasn't overwhelming, don't get me wrong, what they got from Milwaukee, but maybe they like the package a little bit better, and that's all that mattered at the end of the day.
Let's talk about Lance Lynn for a second, Jordan. He leads the league in ERAs. ERA, I should say, like we were to me to say ERAs, but he signed a 2-year extension. Do you think he has a shot of winning the AL Cy Young? I know, some of the, some sort of like, sort of there's a stats here, like, he's the ERA, but sort of like, and it's sort of like some of the other stats, he's kind of like right there, like in the top 10 or top 15. So how realistic of a shot does he have to perhaps maybe contending for the AL Cy Young?
I think between him and Rodon, you have 2 guys that might finish top 3 in Cy Young right now. I think Rodon, you're starting to see someone who looks like he hasn't thrown 100 innings in 2 or 3 years. He looks like he's getting a little tired and might need a little bit of a break. Lynn, however, is that workhorse who is going to come out. He's going to give you 6 innings every time, and he's a phenomenal ball player because of that. I'm very happy about the extension, and it is for reasons just like this. You know, he might be 34 years old. He's no spring chicken, sure, but at the same time, you know, he is very competitive at this current level, and with a rotation that was a little less sure heading into next year with a couple big free agents, it's nice to have a name locked down here. And I think a name that should be high in consideration, top 3, top 5 for Cy Young this year. I think he has a very good shot.
Jordan Lazowski, friend of the show from Sox on 35th, is joining us here on the weekend edition of Second City Sports. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Jordan, let's stick with Carlos Rodon for just a second. My impression is your playoff starting rotation looks like this. Lance Lynn is your game 1 starter. Lucas Giolito, some people still may have a question mark, but I believe he's your game 2 starter because Tony La Russa trusts him to throw close to 100 pitches. Shouldn't Carlos Rodon be your automatic game 3 starter?
He should. If things stay the way they are right now, you would assume inside.
Yeah, it looks like we may have. Okay. Yeah, Jordan, you went out. Yeah, you went out just a second. So you can start your answer again.
Sorry. So just to recap what I was probably talking about, it is Lynn, Rodon, Giolito in some order to start off. And a lot of people have said, you know, what about Kopech? And I think the thing about Kopech is he's incredibly valuable in the role he's currently in, which is your first guy out of the bullpen. Who can cover multiple innings, and if maybe one of your starters doesn't go that long, it is an incredibly valuable piece. I think Kopech will play a huge role in this team heading into October. I don't think it should be out of the rotation unless there's some sort of injury. I think Lynn, Rodon, Giolito, in whatever order you want to put them in, that's a tough 3 to face as you're a team trying to move on past the White Sox. It doesn't get much more difficult than that in the American League.
Okay, guys, you know, we've been avoiding this, so let's talk about I don't want to say the elephant in the room, if you will, but sort of like, you know, something that we should talk about is Eloy Jimenez. And, okay, now, he is going to be playing outfield or on the field. Look, I've been saying for the longest that he should not. He should be DHing, but again, no one's going to listen to me. You know, like I said, Tony Lewis has been doing this longer than I have. And look, I know he hit that, you know, that massive home run, home run in Tuesday, you know, it was Tuesday's game.
Tuesday. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Tuesday, that 3-run home run. I think it ended up going to St. Louis, I think so, or to Kansas, I don't know. But, you know, that's why we love Eloy. That's, you know, why, you know, we love him so much. But how much are we going to see Eloy on the field, Jordan?
Too much for my liking, to be honest with you. The reason is, you know, between Andrew Vaughn, Jose Abreu, Gavin Sheets, Eloy Jimenez, you have a lot of DH type players.
Yeah.
And even with Yasmani Grandal coming back from a knee injury, you got to worry about his health behind the plate. Do you want to push him to start a catcher right away? You might have to DH him a little bit. So the way this team is constructed, you're going to see a lot of Eloy in left field, at least this year. Once Grandal's a little bit healthier, and once they maybe have a better long-term right field solution. I was proven wrong by Andrew Vaughn. I thought it was a mistake to put him in the outfield. I was very much proven wrong. Not only is he a pretty good outfielder, he's very clearly better than Eloy Jimenez. And if the long-term future of the White Sox is, we thought it was Vaughn DH, Eloy left field. If those roles just switch, I'm fine with that. But until this team is healthy and they have some more sure answers, I think we're going to see, at least this year, a little bit of Eloy in left, and then just some announcement over this offseason and into spring training that Eloy will be the DH for the White Sox for the future.
Speaking of people coming back, Jordan, of course, it looks like Yasmani Grandal may return by the end of the month of August. It looks like Luis Robert may return towards the middle of the month. But I want to ask you about Jose Abreu. He had a terrible June, but he started to heat up in the month of July. Assuming with those guys returning, with Tim Anderson is doing that to play, how much better can Jose Abreu get with better players around him now since the team is starting to get healthy? I'm not saying he's going to win back-to-back MVP awards, but it seems like this guy is turning it on at the right time.
Yeah, I think, for years, Jose Abreu sitting in this lineup was a star in the midst of a bunch of scrubs. And that puts pressure on you as a player. You're the only guy that can produce. You got to produce. You got to get things done. And now the pressure sits back, and let me just play my game. I don't feel that extra pressure to get things done because there's a guy behind me and a guy in front of me in the lineup who's going to do a lot of damage. And being able to have that is incredibly valuable. For both the White Sox and Jose Abreu, because not only does it mean your team is a lot stronger, it means Jose Abreu himself can just take a little bit of that pressure off and not feel like he has to be the hero every time. Like, stay in your game, do your thing, and I think, as the summer months, he heats up, and this team's going to get to full strength, and he's going to be a huge part of it, and I think it's incredibly important that he can stay in the middle of it without having to be the hero, while still having plenty of opportunities to be the hero, let's be honest.
I wish we had the breaking news feed. I wish we could have that going on in the background, because various sources, Jeff Passan, Ken Rosenthal, and Jim Bowden are reporting that the White Sox have traded for Craig Kimbrell. Now the question is going to be, how much do the White Sox give up? So, Jordan, what do you think about this potential trade, and how big of a pickup this is for the White Sox?
As you're talking about, I looked down, I saw like 6 texts from someone. I'm like, what is going on? I told them I was recording this. It's like, oh, Kimbrell to the Sox. Like, oh, that's a huge move. I don't know. I've heard it might be a lot bigger than Sox fans think. I think, we started this, Sydney, you're talking about like not mortgaging the future. I think it's going to be a bigger piece right now. Kimbrell's a huge Kimbrell is a bona fide closer who had a lot of suitors. A lot of suitors, and a bona fide closer is going to drive up that price. And I'm sure as we're recording here, we'll find out what it is. It's going to be a little scary for Sox fans. This is the first time you're giving up something of value in this rebuild. You're used to taking all these guys and trading away the Craig Kimbrell type players. Now you're getting one. And this is the first big time the Sox have done that. And I think that's going to be a little scary for fans. I think it's going to be a little bit of a shock. Like, well, what about these prospects? It's like, you got to try and win now. Everyone else in the American League is getting better. You got to get better. And you got to do things that make you better as a team. And Tepera and Kimbrell that's a haul at the trade deadline. That is quite the haul. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, as we reminded our listeners and viewers that what we saw with the Astros what they did to grab the 2017 World Series, of course, that other team on the north side, what they did in 2016. This is what has to happen if you want to become a World Series contender, World Series winner. I'll be interested to see as we record this who the White Sox gave up. But like we've been telling our listeners, you cannot keep everybody. There's some pieces will have to go. Some of your fan favorite players will have to go. So that's the cost of business in today's market in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, teams more than ever in the game today, it's becoming a lot more polarized. I think 5 or 6 of the teams at least have a 90% chance of being in the playoffs right now. Like, if you're not one of those teams, you're better off selling and getting what you can. And because of that, because there are so many teams selling, in many cases, it doesn't benefit the seller. It's like, if there's not enough buyers and too many sellers, this is a weird case you're seeing a lot of teams like the Yankees and the Blue Jays chasing the Red Sox and the Rays. And instead of just giving up, they're still going for it. And the Astros and the A's, like, both of them are probably going to be in, but winning that division is incredibly important. So you're seeing a lot more than usual these trades for prospects, and it's always prospects. It's 9 times out of 10, it's young 18 to 21-year-olds with good hit tools and an ability to play up the middle, shortstop, second base, center field. usually the Sox don't have those types of guys, which is, again, why it's so surprising that for this trade deadline, the Sox were able to get someone like Kimbrel. Because
Definitely surprising.
yeah, it's those types of moves that are interesting ones. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with this one.
Yeah,
it'll be
interesting to see what they give up. How big of a how big of a help has guys like Goodwin and Sheets have they been for the White Sox with all the injuries to Eloy and Robert and some of the other injuries?
Yeah, this is the magic of the 2021 White Sox season. You're pulling guys out of nowhere and getting 2 or 3 week stints of really productive baseball. And you look at why the White Sox have 60 wins. The reason is for whether it's like Yermin Mercedes for 3 weeks, or was Adam Eaton for 3 weeks, or Brian Goodwin for 3 weeks, or Billy Hamilton for just piecing it together for a couple weeks at a time, getting the most out of these players and then some, and finding your way past these games. We've had at times guys like they've had guys like Anderson and Abreu injured and stuff like that, and injured or taking days off or just struggling, and for those types of guys to step up is huge. And I think it's the magic of it. It's the fun of the season. Stuff like that happens.
Heading down the home stretch with a good friend of the show from Sox on 35th, Mr. Jordan Lazowski here on Second City Sports. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Jordan, this player has a .265 average, only has 8 home runs and 45 RBIs. He's playing the high court, and his name is Mr. Yohan Moncada. Mm-hmm. I know the numbers I just read is not there, but do you think he'll ever turn it around, at least have respectable numbers for between now and at the end of the regular season? Because I'm getting a little bit worried. Not worried to jump off a bridge, but I got my third eye, third ear. Sure. And I was like, what's wrong?
I think, it's a very weird productive year for Yohan Moncada. He's getting on base a lot. He's hitting a lot of doubles. He's not really putting the ball out of the ballpark. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the interesting part. The whole team as a whole has not really contributed all that much in terms of the home run department. They're bottom a third of the league in home runs, and it's the product of guys like Moncada not really hitting the ball out of the ballpark. I hope he turns it around and adds a little power. I'm happy with his production. I would like to see a little bit more power. Don't get me wrong. But getting on base and being someone who can keep the lineup moving is incredibly valuable too. And I think, as more guys get healthy and more guys come in this lineup, it's going to be an interesting one. I think he's someone to watch in terms of just where does his productivity come from? Is it getting on base and driving in a couple runs here and there and driving balls to the gaps, or is it putting the ball over the fence? It'll be interesting to see where he falls as this team gets healthier.
How concerned are you with Tim Anderson? I know I've seen some White Sox fans are kind of freaking out because he hasn't been as productive as he's been the last couple of seasons. And I've told people, look, I mean, he's still right up there, in some of the batting average and stuff. So I don't think people should worry about that. But some people are worried about the lack of consistency we're seeing from him.
Yeah, I think, I've chalked a lot of this up to this is just a really weird year for the White Sox. You got a lot of guys who are trying, and we talked about that whole Jose Abreu trying to be a hero thing. Yeah. And we've seen it kind of with other guys is you have Eloy Jimenez go down, and then Luis Robert goes down, and then Nick Madrigal goes down, and then Yasmani Grandal goes down. Now guys start to play hero. And I think Tim Anderson even falls to that. I'd like him to be a little bit more patient at the plate, if I'm being honest. I think a lot of first pitch swinging is kind of what hurts him a little bit. But at the same time, I'm not one to doubt him for after putting up a couple 300 batting average seasons. I think you get hot at the right time and he can carry an offense. And I think that's important. I'm not worried about him per se because I think, he's proven himself over these past 2 seasons to be quite the professional hitter. I think it comes down to, if this lineup gets healthier, then it changes a lot.
Last moment or two with Jordan Lazowski of Sox on 35th right here on Second City Sports. I'm Sidney Brown along with Lakeena McGee. This player, speaking of players getting hot, Jordan, this player carried the Sox through the month of April into early May. Of course, now this player is in the minor leagues, retired, unretired. He's still in the minor leagues. I'm talking about the Yamaneta Yermin Mercedes.
Yes.
Assuming that he's not part of any deal, which we doubt. But do you think he'll be heard from again this season, or do you think the White Sox are trying to wash their hands from him as soon as the season is over?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. This has been the talk for quite some time with all the is he retiring, is he not? It's you don't want to call it a distraction, but you don't like having to if you're going through stuff and you're really fighting something making it public like that. I don't know if that helps you. I don't know, but at the end of the day, if there are some injuries, that he's still a valuable bat. I think you're seeing him tear it up in AAA. I think he's too good for AAA. We've seen him struggle at the major leagues. He's probably somewhere in between the 400 hitter we saw in April and the 100 hitter we saw after that. I think he could be valuable. But it comes back to, we talked about it. There's a lot of DHs on this team, and the Sox, unless someone gets hurt or needs some rest, I'm not sure where he fits. I think he's a good insurance policy, but I hope he gets used to AAA, because if there are no injuries, he's going to have a hard time cracking this spot.
Last question for me, Jordan. How far, now with all these trades, how far can this White Sox team go? They're going to win the division, but can they be right there, contending with the Red Sox, with the Rays, with the Astros, with the A's? How far can this team go?
A healthy White Sox team with the additions we're reading through, this is an AL winning lineup. This is AL winning rotation, AL winning bullpen now, AL winning lineup. Maybe they're not the top in any of those. I'd say they're probably the top rotation. But even if they're not the top of any of those, you put them in a short playoff series, this team's built for those. They now have a really powerful bullpen. They have a good starting staff. And you have a team that if you make a mistake, they're going to hammer you. And, you put those together in a short 5-7 game series, anything can happen. I'm as confident as ever that this team can be really, really good in the playoffs, just because they're kind of built for it. They don't necessarily have some of the crazy guys off the bench that can really contribute, but it's the lineup. They're so heavily stacked in terms of what they're going to give you on the field that anything can happen. There is no reason they can't compete with the A's, the Red Sox, the Rays. There is no reason based on this. If this team's healthy, this is one of the best teams in the American League.
Last question from me, Jordan. Of course, we learning details of the Craig Kimbrell trade is second baseman Nick Madrigal, who's out for the year, and Cody Hoyer, who's part of the package as well. They'll be going from the White Sox to the Cubs in exchange for Mr. Kimbrell. So Rick Hahn, he's your executive of the year as far as I'm concerned. He didn't have to give up too much there. And so those are the details we know for the Craig Kimbrell trade. Last question for me, Jordan. You mentioned that the White Sox they'll probably will be the target for as winning the AL pennant along with the Houston Astros. Which team, in a better term, scare you? Me personally, I say Oakland if they get in, but with the Red Sox making their move yesterday and picking up Kyle Schwarber, I'm not a big fan of their starting pitching staff. They didn't get Craig Kimbrell. I know Chris Sale, former White Sox player, is supposed to come back sometime in August, but their lineup is set. I like Rafael Devers personally. He's the best AL offensive third baseman in the AL. But which team would scare you, for lack of a better term, if the White Sox would face this team come playoff time? Which team would that be?
It's the Astros. I think that's the one where that's the most complete team in the American League. Boston, you worry about their pitching staff. The Rays, the Rays are always dangerous, but they don't have the high profile names. And I think you look at the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the A's, they scare you, but they all have clear defined holes. The Astros don't have one. That rotation's lights out. The bullpen's lights out. The lineup is so similar from their World Series winning team, and it's only gotten better. And buzzers, whatever, trash cans or not, they're quality ball players. But, they're so similar and they're so complete that they probably worry me the most. they would be the ones I don't want to face until I absolutely have to. And you got to beat the best to be the best. So I get that, but it'll be a very interesting one.
Well, the Sox have a better bullpen now to face the Astros.
True.
I'm not
This
as
is true.
afraid of them. I give them their respect, but if you were taught to me about 48 hours ago before these acquisitions happened, I would have said, I think they could beat them, but it's going to be close. But I'm more confident now after these acquisitions that they had to face the Astros.
I would agree. I think these are huge moves.
They're going
Lakeena?
they're going for no doubt about it. He's our good friend from SoxOn35th.com, Jordan Lazowski again. Well, again, as always, thank you so much for joining us today. Jordan, where they can find you on the social media streets.
Yeah, so Sox on 35th is the main place. My personal account is at JLazowski14. I like to think I'm kind of funny. I don't know. I like to at least provide good analysis. I don't know.
All of us.
A little bit of both. We'll see what happens. But no, appreciate you guys having me on. This is always a pleasure. You guys do great work, and it's fun to hear your opinions. And I think, this is the fun time to be a Sox fan. It's becoming a very, very fun time after years of just not being very fun. So I appreciate what you guys are doing and having me on, and looking forward to more fun in the future.
Yeah, we definitely got to get you back on before the playoff starts.
For sure. I would love
a lot of excellence. So, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us. You stay safe.
You too. Take care. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
You too, Jordan.
You as well.
Once again, that's Jordan Lazowski from SoxOn35th.com and the Sox on 35th podcast. You follow him on on his personal social media accounts, and follow Sox on 35th on Twitter and Instagram. They put out great content as well about the Chicago White Sox. Lakeena, before we move on to football, I didn't want to interject during the interview because that would have been unprofessional of me and made the show sound bad. But with Craig Kimbrell now on board, I like the setup. Michael Kopech for the 5th, 6th, 7th innings, just in case the starting pitching is roughed up. You have Kopech, you have Tepera, you have Craig Kimbrell as your setup guy, and you have Liam Hendriks to close it out. If that's not the perfect setup, I don't know what is.
Yeah, let's see how they all mesh together. That's going to be the $1 million question. Can they mesh well? I mean, they're going to win the division, no doubt, because they're way ahead of the other teams, and the Indians, Guardians, and whatever they're calling themselves, have given
the Cleveland
up,
baseball team, to be
whatever,
correct.
Yeah, I would say whatever. They gave up their one of their top players in Hernandez, so they're not they're kind of giving up. So let me just see what happens. I mean, look, I want to see how they do against the Astros, the Rays, whoever they end up facing in the playoffs. We got to get Jordan back on then as well. So we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, very eventful time for White Sox and White Sox fans everywhere. Of course, you're listening to us via the audio. You can still yell at us, but we can't hear you. So we assume that Rick Hahn is done making trades. You never know, but I'm glad we got Jordan on to break down those 3 key moves now for the White Sox. Of course, I'll be there tonight and tomorrow to watch the White Sox hopefully put the Indians away and cut down this match number. I don't know what it is at this point, but it's going to go down hopefully soon for the White Sox to clinch this AL division title.
And
You're listening to
I know that I just want to finish this point. I know Madrigal, he's done for the year, so the Cubs not have to worry about that. Cody Hoare is actually a pretty good pitching prospect for the White Sox, so it's sort of a win-win for both. But again, you're getting a nice little haul. And look, the Dodgers were going to give up their top guys. The Astros really didn't have that much prospects-wise, so the White Sox really were kind of like the one team that Kimbrell was probably going to go to. So Atlanta, I know that they probably didn't want to give up some of their guys either. But Tampa, same thing. They probably didn't want to give up some of their top guys. So you know what? Let's see what this bullpen can do, and we'll see if they can be that nonstop bullpen that we've been hoping for. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. You're listening to Second City Sports Weekend Edition along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. Lakeena, we only have a few minutes left on this program. Let's start off with the National Football League. Of course, we all know that all the players and coaches are in training camp. They started up early this week. Practices have started for the last couple of days. And one team to the north of us, we'll get to the Bears in just a minute, but one team up north above us called the Green Bay Packers. the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers, their quarterback who will return to play this season for 2021, he had his own personal press conference the other day for a half hour. As the kids would say, he put management on blast. He had a big to do about nothing rambling session. And as I said on this program all offseason, this will be Aaron Rodgers' last year in Green Bay. Of course, his contract for 2023 is voided. 2022 is quote unquote left open. Makes sense all of this because from what I've heard the other day, it was just a bunch of rambling.
I didn't listen to it. I just
nothing.
I mean, like I didn't really listen to it, so I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. You sort of like let out your grievances, okay. But yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, they got Randall Cobb back to kind of get the band back together to try to make it, try to do it like a one more time, for a one more go at it for the Super Bowl, and that's fine. I mean, but okay, look, he got what he wanted, pretty much. He didn't, the last 2 years are voided. They can't franchise tag him, so he basically can be able to pick whatever he wants to do, whether he wants to stay in Green Bay or go somewhere else. So, okay, I mean, that was a waste of 30 minutes. Okay, whatever. That's nice. I mean, I didn't think he was gonna leave, but I didn't think he was gonna stay there long term either. So I was like, oh, okay, That's nice. Okay, just get to football. Okay, you wasted. Okay, 3 months of drama for nothing. All right, whatever. Let's keep going here. I don't. Who cares? Okay, you're in camp. Yippee! You were gonna get there anyway. Fine, whatever.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth. So let's move on. Of course, to the Chicago Bears, we focus on since we are broadcasting live from Chicago. Of course, they're practicing at Hallis Hall. Of course, we're still a couple of weeks away from their first preseason game. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I know they played the Buffalo Bills. I think it's the second week of the preseason, but I forget who their first opponent is. But there's mixed reports on rookie quarterback Mr. Justin Fields out of Ohio State. He didn't look good in his first couple of days, but on Friday he looked pretty good according to the beat writers who cover the Bears up there in Hallis Hall. Lakeena, as we said before, it's a wait-and-see game to witness how Mr. Fields is going to do in the preseason, and will Matt Nagy, the head coach of the Bears, will properly guide him towards success.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm kind of in show me mode. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on him like other Bears fans are. I mean, look, I think he's gonna absorb the information quick. Of course, he's gonna look good in practice, but I want to see him do it in a game. Like, I'm not like freaking out like, oh my God, he had a bad practice, or oh yeah, he had a great practice. I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, let's just get to the games at this point. I mean, look, if you look good at I'm not saying he's Trubisky. I'm gonna insult him like that, but look, Trubisky looked good in practice.
Don't you do that, young lady?
Look, I'm just making a point here that let's not like make any like duration, any predictions or synopsis on what we see on on the practice field. Let's see how he does on the field. Look, I mean, I know some people said the defense looked good. I mean, look, the defense is about a year older than they were, and I know Eddie Goldman is going to be the X factor. But again, how is he going to look? He hasn't played competitive football in a year, so that's another thing. So I just kind of feel like, what? Let's get to the games. I mean, let this guy look good in practice. This guy didn't look good in practice. I'm like, okay, let's just get to the games. Like, fine, whatever. Okay. I mean, it's not like I said. I mean, it's not like this. Like, let's just get to the games now. I mean, I kind of feel like, okay, all the practices and how this guy looks, but okay, let's just see you. I'm sure we're gonna see him, in the preseason, 3 preseason games. Their first preseason is actually against the Dolphins here in Chicago, so that's.
Yeah, you probably. I know Dolphins first, then Bills second the following week.
Yeah, and also after that, it's they finish up against Tennessee their preseason, so. Not a pretty decent thing there, but I mean, okay, let's see how they look. I know everybody's gonna say, well, they look really no. I'm just like, let's see how they look in the games, and that's gonna be the thing. Like, Matt Nagy finally has his guy now. It feels like, so let's see if he can develop him. That's gonna be the $1 million question.
Yep. As we are still a couple of weeks away from preseason action returning for the first time since 2019, unfortunately, in training camps, and especially during preseason, injuries do happen in the National Football League. Of course, you have T.J. Watt, who was the league leader in sacks from the Pittsburgh Steelers a year ago. He sat out of practice the other day. Of course, during Friday's practice for the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz apparently went out with a foot injury. If you're the Colts, you better hope it's not serious because you put in all your chips into him being your franchise quarterback, replacing Phillip Rivers. And so hopefully things are on the up and up for Mr. Wentz and the Colts.
Yeah, I mean that was not very good, and I'm sure Colt fans are holding their breath that it's not a very serious foot injury. He was held out. They're going to have further testing, so we'll see if it's not serious. I mean, you got Jacob Eason, who's the second-year quarterback. Also, too, you got the rookie Sam Ehlinger from Texas. So you're going to look upon one of those two guys in case Wentz, isn't going to be able to play for a while. And if you're the Colts, if you're a Colts fan, you got pretty much got everything you need. You got a great O-line. You got one of your guys back into the fold. You got Darius, and is probably one of the top safeties in the NFL, by one of the top defense in the NFL. You got a really good running core. We'll see how I forgot the guy's name who he was out last year. He's back this year. I forgot his name was Malik Mack or somebody. He had the last name Mack, but he's gonna be back. But Marlon Mack. Yeah, I figured it was good. I know his last name is Mack. Marlon Mack. So.
That's why we're here for help each other.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so come back from a torn ACL, Mr. Max. So if you better be praying, you better be hoping and praying that Wentz doesn't have to may miss the preseason probably at most, because if he's gonna be missing some parts of the season, you may have to panic though if you're the Colts.
Yeah, especially in that division, even though it doesn't look great on paper, you still have Houston. Assuming that Deshaun Watson plays this year, even though he's in camp now. You have a struggling franchise in Jacksonville. You starting over with rookie quarterback Trevor Lawrence, the new head coach Urban Meyer from the college ranks. You have Tennessee in there. So even though it's not the sexiest division in football, it can still get competitive. So if you're Indianapolis, you trying to become a Super Bowl contender, you had to have Carson Wentz stay healthy for the entire year. That's been his problem the last couple of years in Philadelphia. You just don't want to have that start off here in Indianapolis.
And that's why he's not in Philadelphia. Let's be
exactly
honest here. I think that's one of the reasons why he's not in Philadelphia anymore, is because of those injury problems. The COVID vaccine. I know. Yeah, I mean the Cardinals have now joined the list of teams. I think there are like 6 or 7 teams that have 90% vaccine rate. So I think I saw Ian Rappaport say that he can count the guys in one hand as to who are not vaccinated. So you're all good there. Unfortunately, Lamar Jackson tested positive. Now he's going to be out, although the word is that he might be able to be cleared to play maybe sometime next week. And that's pivotal if you're the Ravens, because if you're trying to, have him learn the offensive scheme. Now him being out right now that's not preferred. I mean, let's be honest here. I think you don't want that type of thing. But what else so far have you seen in this practice? I know we haven't played any preseason games yet, but also to Xavien Howard, that's a name that he said that he's not happy with his contract. Of course, he's the Pro Bowl safety from the Dolphins, and now he's saying that he's not happy with his contract. So that this could be a Pro Bowler on the market. So Sid, what do you think of some of that?
Yeah, if you're the Miami Dolphins, I know there was a young talented defense from a year ago. Shout out to head coach Brian Flores, who worked under Bill Belichick, or Bill Belichick as we call him on this show, from the New England Patriots from back in the day. The Dolphins, this is now you were the Hunters last year. Now you're the hunted. Of course, you expect second-year quarterback out of Alabama, Mr. Tua Tagovailoa, to improve his game. Xavien Howard is one of the best young defensive backs in the league. If you're the Dolphins, you got to secure him, or else, like you say, if he gets out in the open market, somebody, including the Patriots, if they have room, will snatch him up real quick.
Yeah, so it's definitely something to look out for there. But yeah, anything else, sort of like, training camp, news that's kind of caught your attention?
I'm just like you, Lakeena. I'm waiting for the preseason games to start in a couple of weeks. We'll start to see what whoever plays, what these players are made up, what's the position battles going to be. And going back to the Dallas Cowboys, I know Dak Prescott set out the last couple of days of practice due to shoulder tweakness. They had to be careful with it because He's coming off of a devastating ankle injury from a year ago, and he's their franchise quarterback. So the Cowboys obviously are doing the right thing by sending him. I don't think it's anything too serious as far as we know right now.
Yeah, definitely something to look out for too, because I think if you're the Cowboys, especially after you gave them all that money, you're gonna have to protect your investments. Yeah, just
Do they start next week or the week after on
next week.
HBO?
I believe, I think the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look that up right
Okay.
quick. But yeah, I think this could be right after their Hall of Fame game against the Steelers next Thursday. So I'll look that up right quick. But yeah, so
Dak tweaked his shoulder in practice. This is how he
Yeah.
looks in a hot tub.
Yeah, like, oh, good grief.
Who didn't take the vaccine?
Oh Lord. Oh yeah, and apparently doesn't know anything about HIPAA, so that's oh yeah, he doesn't know how that works. But yeah, I think they set the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if when the new season starts. But yeah, so that's another thing that's gonna be kind of like they're looking out for, especially since the NFC East is pretty open. So if you really can't afford for Prescott to not be at 100%. So if you're trying to go for the division, I think you better make sure your top quarterback is, very healthy, at the very least like 80 or 90%, because if not, you're going to be out of the division pretty quick. August 10th, I was right. So make sure to look
August 10th, okay. Expect to see a lot of, as we said before, a lot of Dak Prescott, a lot of some of the younger players trying to get FaceTime. Of course, most important of all, he's a camera fiend. The owner, Mr. Jerry Jones. That's my football team. Welcome to Cowboys Nation.
Yeah.
Okay, he's the older version of Puff Daddy, grabbing as much camera time as possible.
Okay,
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Yes, and a lot of swear words. I have no doubt. But
oh yes, yep.
Oh,
this is on HBO.
All right, so we only got a few more minutes left, Sid. Our little Olympic update. Look, I wish I had like the Olympic theme going on in the background, because
I said I won't be singing for the rest of the show. I'll keep it that way.
yeah. So with Simone Biles not competing in the women's all around, but we had a wonderful performance by Suni Lee from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Congrats to her.
Yeah, making it 5 in a row for the U.S. women in the all around. She just held off Rebecca Andrade from Brazil and one of the Russian gymnasts to win all-around gold, and she earned that gold, folks. I'm sure there's going to be some folks are going to say, well, she only won because Simone didn't compete. She's a pretty good gymnast. I mean, if you know her backstory, she's a descendant of the Hmong people, which is an Asian group of people. It's a very big Hmong population in the St. Paul area. If you know her backstory, her father, John, who actually built a balance beam out of cardboard in their backyard, sadly, suffered an accident right before the national championships a couple of years ago. He's now paralyzed. But if you saw him, her mom, and everybody, probably the whole neighborhood in that area, just cheering her on. And look, she's cute. She's got charisma. She's adorable and smart. I think she's on her way to Auburn now. I think with the new likeness deal, she definitely make a whole lot of money. Not to say that's the kind of person she is, but she definitely makes some money now. So congrats to her and keeping the streak alive.
Yes, congrats to her as well from all of us here at Sega City Sports and War Media in our new home, which we'll discuss next week. Other Olympic news, Lakeena, just real quick about the basketball. I did watch that game between U.S. and Iran live via my computer, via the Peacock app. As we predicted in our last episode, the U.S. showed their dominance, winning closer to 60 points over Iran. Zach LaVine did his thing. Damian Lillard shot the ball well. KD, Kevin Durant, didn't get into foul trouble. He did his thing. Chris Middleton looked good in limited action from the Milwaukee Bucks. Drew Holiday, the same thing. What I noticed about the U.S., they played team basketball on both ends. They were in the passing lanes. They were aggressive on the defensive end. The offensive end, they hit 19 three-pointers, I believe, during that game. They were very high from the arc, especially in that first half. I know they had the Czech Republic later on today, as you listened to us on our podcast version. And that game is on NBC, the regular TV, so you could tune into that, watch it live. As we said before, the pool play should be a breeze for the U.S., but starting next week for the knockout round, they once you go for a medal, it's going to get tough. What I saw on Tuesday, I pretty much expected. They used the France loss last Sunday morning as a wake-up call.
Yeah, I think that this is sort of the dominant team that we expect. I know it's Iran. This is their first time playing in the Olympics in basketball, but look, I think this is probably what you expected now. They should be able to hang on against the Czech Republic. They got a couple of guys from the NBA, but there's no reason why the U.S. shouldn't win that game and advance to the medal rounds. And from what I've seen, a lot of the teams, everyone's got their issues. So, like, for people to say that, oh my God, they're not going to win a medal, they might just end up winning it because everyone else in that medal in that pool for the men's basketball, they're all flawed. So I think I like the U.S. chances. Just saying.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens there. Lakeena, before we get up out of here, as we want to remind our listeners on the podcast version, we are recording this on the Friday. As we said before, the trades could happen at any time that we are recording. According to Jeff Passett of ESPN, the New York Mets finalized the deal to acquire second baseman / shortstop Mr. Javi Baez from the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw that also Trevor Williams, who are one of the relief pitchers for the Cubs. He's going to the Mets as well, and we'll see what a haul that the Cubs got in return. I'm assuming that they got some pretty good prospects from the Mets, and I have not seen Chris Bryant yet be traded as of yet, but we'll see. I know that. I know Tampa. I'm sorry. I know Tampa. You know, they were very interested, but yeah, we'll see. Go ahead, Sid. Sorry about that.
Call me crazy. I'm not saying this is a confident prediction, but it seems to me that the Cubs have made up their mind that they're going to resign Chris Bryant.
Since he only left,
he's him along with Wilson Contreras, only two left from that 2016 core. Call me crazy, but there's no excuse for the Cubs management not to resign Mr. Bryant.
Hey, look, they're gonna have some nice money from the marquee network, so they're gonna have money to spend. So they can't play they can't do the whole like cry poor. So with Wrigleyville starting to kind of be amped up again, let's hope that it can stay that way. I know there's some other stuff that's been happening, but we won't get to that. We won't go there, I should say. But yeah, there's really no excuse. I mean, if you can get it for like a nice discount, hey, might as well do it, right?
Yeah, might as well.
All right, so before we go to break now, so you'll be happy to know that the track and field is starting. Yay. So you got the 400-meter hurdles. The 400-meter hurdles from both the men and the women that will be this weekend. Also, too, I believe the 100 meters for the women are going to be this weekend. I know Shakuri Richardson, I know that some people are kind of have their issues with her not being able to run, but again, it is what it is.
She won't be there, folks. Get over it.
Yeah, it is what it is. So also, too, the swimming, they're finishing up. Caleb Dress, who already has 2 golds already in a relay, and the 200-meter freestyle, he actually has a couple more chances to win gold. Kayla Decky also has a chance to win gold in the relays. Also, you got the splash and dash for both the men and the women. The 50 meters, I love the 50-meter freestyles. One of my favorites. Think of it as like a 100-meter dash in swimming. So that should be a lot of fun. So also, 100-meter hurdles. So a lot of stuff coming up. You got the swimming finishing up, and now the track starting to kind of get going. So their big races starting with the final. So a lot of stuff with the Olympics too, of course, with the basketball, both men and the women. Also doing the medal rounds, the U.S. just missed losing to the Netherlands. So they're in the semifinals. So they still got a chance to win at least a medal. So a lot of stuff coming up with the Olympics, no doubt.
Yeah, so I can actually watch the Olympics now.
Yeah,
with the track and field on.
yes. Make sure you check out the listings, folks. You got it on the Peacock app. If you have it, they have all day coverage. So if you're up early, you can watch it there. If you don't want to wait until the NBC coverage does start to like 6 or 7 o'clock on prime time. But yeah, so a lot of stuff coming up. So you also got baseball too with all the crazy trades. Also, you got preseason football is going to be starting next week with the Cowboys and the Steelers in the Hall of Fame game. It's just so much stuff going on, so I'm exhausted.
Yeah, for those of you listening on our podcast, Oh no, the podcast version. Yours truly will be there at Sox Spark tonight and tomorrow. Hopefully, Craig Kimber, Cesar Hernandez, and Ryan Tepera will be there. It's going to be a party on the South Side. Damn it!
Yes, it is. It's gonna be
Bring it on,
party
the AL Central Division champs for 2021. Your Chicago White Sox. The party is on all day, baby.
All right. On that note, you can follow me at Keena McGee
Yay!
on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports. First, right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. Videos drop every Monday and Friday. Once again, videos drop every Monday and Friday right here on YouTube at War Media. You can catch the audio version of this podcast at War or Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on your podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com, and you can follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
All right, Lakeena, wrap it up.
All right, first Sid, I'm Lakeena. Stay safe out there. And look, if you're not going to get the vaccine, just keep your hands washed still and wear a mask, please. The numbers are going up, unfortunately. So if you don't want things to get locked down again, I would advise y'all to wear a mask if you're not going to get vaccinated. But also just be safe and just be good to each other. So for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports Zoom style, and we'll see you next week.
Let's go Sox. Till next time. Holla!